Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the session. This session is to strengthening expertise and raising public awareness. Sorry. My name is Konu Cho, and I am an ICRP main commission member, and I am working at the Korea Institute of Nuclear Safety. I am co-chairing this session.
Good afternoon. My name is Reiko Kanda, Director General of NIRSQSD from Japan. As the chair of the local organizing committee of ICRP 2023, I'm pleased to co-chair the last scientific session. So I introduce the rapporteur of this session. Dr. Yang Soo-yang is an assistant professor of Yonsei University, Republic of Korea. He is a member of ICRP Committee 2 and also actively working in the 4 ICRP task groups. Dr. Yang, please start your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman, for the kind introduction. Okay, so it is my great honor to introduce the abstract for the video and poster presentations on session 18, this session. So, as you may already know, a total of 240 abstracts were submitted to present the posters and videos on ICRP 2023 Symposium. So 80% is the posters and 20% a video. The number of abstracts, so when we see the number abstract by country, although the majority of the abstract was submitted from the Asian countries such as Japan and Korea, so researchers from a total of 37 countries submitted their works to present in this symposium. So this strongly support the radiation protection is indeed an important topic in the world. There are a total of 18, the session having their own specific agenda. The largest amount abstract, the 43, are presented on session 2 for dosimetry. And the second place is the session 12 for emergency, and third place is the session 17, effect and dose response. So our session 18 is the 6th place, which indicate the interest of our session would not be the highest, but high enough. So a total of 14 abstracts, 8 posters, and 6 videos are presented in our session from 10 countries such as Japan, US, and Canada. So after reviewing the old abstract in our session, I think the abstract might be fall into one of the 4 categories. So first, the education and training. Second, advancement in professional certification. Third, the radiation risk perception. And fourth, public awareness and policy influence. So I think these 4 abstracts will be considered in the education and training. So the first, the abstract ID 2345 by the Carita et al., the titled Radiation Protection Training Program for Radiation Workers in Hamada Medical Corporation, Qatar, from Qatar. So second, the abstract ID 2347 by the Arakawa et al., titled Special Sharing in Survey Meter Training Utilizing Mixed and Augmented Reality. The third one is from Korea, the title, The Radiation Protection Education, the During Residency and its relationship to radiation safety behaviors in South Korea. The last, from the Japan, by the Hirasugi et al., by the title, ICRP Publications Translation Project in Japan. So as an example, of the abstract ID 345. So this abstract shows the well-established the program for the training and education is really successfully result in the improvement of their the professionals and the working performance in this area. And the second one is advancement in professional certificate may include may have these three the abstract. The first the ID 2155 from Rogers et al. The certification of radiation protection professionals in Australia and New Zealand. The second one is the academic preparation and professional certification in health physics in the United States. And the third one is the ID 2156, the developing and maintaining radiation protection expertise, or US and global perspective. So as an example, the abstract ID 2155 from Rogers et al. Describes the establishment of the Australian the radiation protection accreditation and explore the rationale for the recently introducing a second, the higher level competency certification, so which highly needed for the need for the society. They would like to, so there is a circumstance in growing the number of professionals, they can support the system of the radiation protection. So third, the radiation risk perception, there are three abstracts. The first one is the abstract ID 2344 by Mello et al. The title, Are We Safe? Exploring psychological factors affecting radiation risk perception of all uranium mining quarters dwellers from Portugal. And the second one is the abstract ID 2158, the titles Occupational Radiation Protection, the lessons learned from the world's largest operation nuclear power plant. The third one from Japan, ID 2349, the survey of personal dosimeter wearing status of medical workers in radiation control area. So this is also one of the examples, the radiation risk perception, the abstract by Masaki et al. So this study shows that there was significant improvement in the initial low wearing rate of the personal dosimeter in operating rooms following the revision of the law and regulations. Of course, it never reached the 10% yet. So this study say that it is really essential to undertake the further measure in the future to improve personal dosimeter wearing rate. So the last one, the public awareness and policy influence. So I think these four abstracts are relevant. So first, the abstract I2160 by Belsky Kova, we are strengthening expertise and raising public awareness about the radon topics. The second abstract ID 2346 by McDonald, the title is the strengthening expertise and raising the public awareness decades of the experience in communicating radiation safety with good science in plain language, Canadian perspective. The third one is from Ivanova, the abstract ID 2154. The title is the analysis for raising radon public awareness from Bulgaria. And the last one is from the Italy by the Giusti et al. The title is the Italian transposition of the European Directive 2013-59 Euratom and the effect on radio protection controls. So this is an example of the abstract ID 2154 by Innova, shows the public knowledge and the radon about the radon and radiation is generally very low in Bulgaria, which emphasize the many effort indeed needed to increase the public knowledge and awareness. So this trend will be very similar to many different countries. So I think there are many high quality abstract and presentations on our session. So hopefully my introduction will be helpful for you to find efficiently the presentation you want to see. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the many interesting invited talks on this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yang. The next speaker is Dr. Bernard Lum of ICRP. All of us here know him well as he is the chair of the ICRP and a leading expert in the field of radiological protection. I believe there is no need to introduce Dr. Lum any further. So please start, Dr. Lum.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Now on this topic, strengthening expertise and raising public awareness, let me remind you as an introduction to the session to the ICRP Vancouver call for action, because it addresses those aspects, expertise and raising public awareness. So we have issued and announced the call last year at the last ICRP symposium in Vancouver. We have posted it on the website and we have published it in a journal. So this paper summarizes actually what the essence behind the Vancouver call. It's an open access paper, so please read it if you are interested in more detail. I will not give you all the details written there. And it was prepared by basically by the current ICRP main commission. Now, the Vancouver call was developed based on a review of the literature on the situation of competence, training and education in radiation research and radiation protection, and it included papers where the situation was described in individual countries, zum Beispiel in the US or Germany, I come to US later, in Europe or worldwide in all areas of the world. And based on this review, the main commission felt that yes, indeed, there is a lack of competence and support of radiation research and radiation protection all over the world, maybe not in all individual countries, but in many countries. And based on this review, ICRP, the main commission, ICRP has proposed 5 actions, The first addressed national governments and funding agencies, those who have the money to support research, to strengthen resources for radiological protection research allocated by governments and other international organizations. The second action addressed national research laboratories and other institutions to launch and sustain long-term research programs, because radiation protection is interdisciplinary and it's not just a matter of 1 or 2 years projects to solve all the issues. So we really need a long-term sustainable support, and this is addressed, or this is dealt with in action 2. The third action addresses universities to develop undergraduate and graduate university programs to attract students to study the relevant disciplines and to make them aware of job opportunities in radiation-related fields. And there are quite a number of job opportunities. Just think in the medical area where we really need radiation protection specialists, but in many other areas as well. Now, action number 4 is more general. The ICRP asks for using plain language when interacting with the public, so now the public awareness, public and decision makers about radiological protection, to make them understand why radiation protection is so important. And finally, the 5th action, also general, is to foster general awareness. So here we have awareness of proper uses of radiation and radiological protection through education and training. I mean, this sets the scene for the current session, of course. And let me just very briefly mention a few reactions, international reactions, which we could always see dealing with the Vancouver call for action. And one is, there was a very detailed analysis of the situation of radiation-related occupations in the US. A long-term study, I think that it took them 5 or 7 years to analyze various occupations, including radiation biology, nuclear industry, medical physics, health physics, medical applications. And the lead authors of those single individual studies, they recently published a letter to Radiation and Environmental Biophysics, where the Vancouver call was published, to explicitly support the Vancouver call to strengthen expertise in radiological protection worldwide. So this was already a first, to us it was already confirmation that it was correct or right that we called for action in this area. Another example, in the recent issue of Physics Today, maybe you have seen that there is an article exactly dealing with the situation in the US, but as part of the article, titled Alarm Sounded Over Declining US Radiation Professional Workforce, the Vancouver call was explicitly cited at a symposium and so on. The International Commission on Radiological Protection called for action to strengthen expertise in radiological protection workforce worldwide. So again, this confirmed us, yes, our review was quite right, and that our impression that there is lack of support in various regions of the world was right, was correct. Now, as you might also know, ICRP has specific relations to many international organizations, about 30 or 35 currently, and every year we are organizing a meeting with them, a one-day workshop, let's put it like that, where we discuss relevant questions and topics with them and ask for feedback. And the last meeting with the SLOs, we call them SLOs, organizations with special liaison organizations, was held in conjunction with a WNA workshop in Bristol a couple of weeks ago in the UK. You heard already two presentations summarizing the outcome of this workshop, which was on optimization in the system of radiological protection based on the all hazards approach and on effective communication and stakeholder engagement. But as part of this workshop, we also held our SLO meeting with the organizations in relation with ICRP. And out of the 30 organizations, about 15 sent representatives, and some additional ones sent reports to give us feedback. And we wanted to ask 2 questions to them. One was on the review and revision of the system, and the other one, and this is now relevant for this session, was on the Vancouver call. So we asked them, what do you think about this initiative by ICRP? And in addition, we discussed communication, because this is was also part of the Vancouver call. So in general, the outcome was, or the take-home message, at least for me, was that in general, the Vancouver call was very positively received by those present, representatives of the international organizations. And in addition to what is said in the Vancouver call paper, it was highlighted that future replacement of retired expertise will also become more and more burning issue in our field. And as an outcome of this meeting, there were 3 actions proposed or discussed among the organizations. The first is they discussed to prepare a joint position paper, independent on ICRP. So this was just their idea to support our Vancouver call. And what I heard during the symposium, during coffee breaks, that they are currently working on this position paper, and I hope that it will be published and further supports the Vancouver call. Second, it was proposed by the organizations that ICRP could develop a platform where the organizations could send education and training opportunities they offer, for example, to us as ICRP, and then we collect this, and let's say every month we distribute those offers, those opportunities among our about 20,000 contacts by email, for example, or whatsoever. We have to discuss in detail how we should do that, but this could at least help to make others aware of training opportunities, and this could help a little bit to help increasing education and training in our field. And finally, we were advised by our SLOs that we could establish a working group dedicated to communication. We always say, oh, communication is important. We heard that so many times here during the symposium. But this would be a concrete action, how we in ICRP could try to do better as far as communication is concerned. And this would be a working group under the Secretariat. And maybe in the future, in the near future, we will issue an open call and ask for colleagues who are experts in communication and who are willing to help ICRP in communicating our messages in radiation protection. So this was what I wanted to say as an introduction to this session, and I'm now carefully listening about feedback on the Vancouver call and on maybe further ideas what we can do to improve the situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The Q&A and discussion will take place jointly at the end of this session after all the presentations have been completed. So I will introduce next speaker. Dr. Madame Lihani is the Director Global Outreach for Radiation Protection at the Massachusetts General Hospital, Boston, and he was President, International Organization for Medical Physics. Dr. Lihani is an emeritus member ICRP after having been an active member for 24 years. So Dr. Lihani, please start your presentation.
Thank you, Chair, Dr. Kanda. Thank you, organizers, for giving me this opportunity to talk to you on this topic of patients receiving relatively high doses. ICRP, as all of you know, was established in 1928, and you know all what prompted the creation of ICRP. Now in 2023, here is something that takes us back to 1928 and needs our collective actions. This is what created the need at that time to have an organization looking at radiation protection. But now let's look at the story of this lady Jane, 38 years old, Crohn's disease. The median survival for Crohn's disease patients is now 80 years. which is close to the life expectancy of the general population. So she already received 110 millisievert from CT scans. I now go with the dialogue between the doctor and the medical physicist. The doctor asks the medical physicist, is 110 millisievert too much of the dose? And I refer to this BER7, where it's mentioned that more than 60% of the exposed survivors received a dose of radiation of less than 100 millisievert. So that gives a feel of why we decided to think of 100 millisievert to talk about. And also there is a high degree of consensus on radiation effects at the doses above 100 milligray of organ dose. So it's not that there is a threshold dose, but the consensus is large. And when we picked up this cohort of patients who have received more than 100 millisievert and assessed the organ doses, so in all organs the dose was more than 100 milligray, and some organs like stomach and liver in the cohort had more than 200 milligray, and many of the other organs had 100 to 200 milligray. Well, patients with such high doses may be only few, so that is the impression doctor is conveying. And then the response comes that unfortunately there are a couple of million of patients getting added every year globally with 100 millisievert plus. So this was something which was a big point to debate how far it is correct few years ago. But during these years, there have been large number of publications, including one in which we assessed the number of patients who are likely getting added in a 5-year period with 100 millisievert and normalized to per 1,000 population, with Finland on the lowest side and US on the highest side. The 35 countries in the OECD are listed here. One can see how many of the patients. So previously, there was a debate that it cannot happen in my country. The system in my country is so good for justification, and it has to be US or other countries. So during these 4 years, there have been more than 50 publications. So something which was thought to be impossible is now possible, and there is a more trust now among the professional colleagues that yes, this is something which is happening. And the ICRP chair, Dr. Varna Room, was the first one to write an editorial when he came across this paper on 100 millisievert cohort of patients. So we are not talking about collective dose to the population, which has governed the agenda for radiation protection organizations for more than 2 decades. We are talking of the dose to the individual patients. And not only, this is not something happening once in a while, like accidents happen, like overexposures happen. This is something happening on an every single day. And data now is available for patients with 100 millisievert from fluoroscopic guided intervention and PET-CT also. Well, it is not that some people did not know that this is the situation. Most people did not know. So the information on the magnitude is new. There were many publications before which did indicate that patients may be getting high doses, but they were in a very restricted situation. So people thought that only in those restricted situations this may be happening. But now the studies which have been carried on in the last 4 years are population based, not the general population, but hospital population, means those patients who are undergoing CT scans. Among them, how many % are getting into the cohort of 100 millisievert plus? And then the next question many people raise, oh, these patients may be very old, so let us look at those. So during these 4 years, sufficient information has been collected on how many are between 0 to 20, 21 to 30, and all that. So all that information is clearly available for this cohort. And just to keep it short, typically 1/4 are below the age of 50. And let us say that we exclude patients who are, let's say, over 60 years. One can argue why 60, but just for the sake of simplicity, And those who have disease which will provide shorter life expectancy or the low probability of manifesting radiation effects, still one is left about. Our calculations show that about 500,000 of patients getting added every year with 100 millisievert plus cohorts. So this second bullet point is also taken into account besides CT, the fluoroscopic guided intervention and PET-CT hybrid imaging examinations. So one can really imagine if there was at all any time in the history after the discovery of X-ray and radioactivity when the situation was like this. So it's not that one is ignoring the useful contribution which medical imaging makes. So it is only a question of looking at that, is this not too much work or so much work for radiation protection community than in 1928? Already IAEA has been actively engaged, also WHO, and I forgot to mention HERCA also. They have been engaged in collaborative work. I think this should be my last slide. So it's a question of looking at, are we doing what we have been doing or what we need to be doing? With that, I thank you for the patient listening.
Thank you very much. So next, I would like to introduce Dr. Jacqueline Garnier-Laplace. She is currently Deputy Head of the Division of Radiological Protection and Human Aspects of Nuclear Safety at the OECD NEA. She serves as the Scientific Secretary for CRPPH and also Secretary of ICRP Committee 4. So please start the presentation.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you also for inviting the NEA to this panel discussion. So the Nuclear Energy Agency is one of the ICRP's SLO in the full constellation of SLOs, and it is an intergovernmental agency within the OECD. In brief, that means that it assists its member countries in diverse sectors related to nuclear technologies and provides scientific, technological, and legal authoritative assessment to inform government decisions. We will draw our attention today on one of its technical committee, which is the Committee on Radiological Protection and Public Health, also known in brief as CRPPH. This committee's got 125 experts from 30 member countries, plus a number of representatives of international organizations around the tables. And obviously, this committee addresses evolving radiological protection issues from science to policy, regulation, operations, and practice. So the essence of the CRPPH is about strengthening expertise and raising public awareness in RP, which are two topics closely interconnected. Strengthening expertise is about adjusting human capital to society's needs and societal evolutions. By strengthening expertise, we ensure the community that accurate, up-to-date information is available for public dissemination, which helps raise public awareness in turn about radiological protection. So besides the nuclear sector, which I will not address, there are major global changes at that time that justify that the RP expertise is adjusted and evolves. The first global change that impacts RP is climate change mitigation, and mostly the emergence of new nuclear technologies in countries thinking about revisiting their energy portfolio to meet net zero carbon, such as, for example, small modular reactors, presents really unique challenges. Radiological protection experts are therefore called upon more than ever to contribute to the development of science-based policy and to the modernization of existing regulatory frameworks to such changes and innovative technologies. So as an example, the CRPPH has created a task force on to think about radiological protection challenges related to SMR's deployment, to identify where the priority should be put. For example, how to ensure radiological protection without real operating experience, Should emergency planning zone be revised? Are the data required for environmental impact assessment available, especially if those technologies are set in remote territories? This is just example. The ICRPPH is also developing guidelines for dealing with multiple hazards, which are more prevalent than ever, with natural disasters such as flooding occurring more frequently and with higher intensity. So the second global change impacted ERP I will illustrate is the evolution towards risk-informed society and inclusive decision-making process where all stakeholders at concern can share their views. So this must include approaches and tools that enable citizens to make their own views for each situation they perceived or assessed as being at risk. So this involves revisiting and including inclusive and deliberative approaches to assessing decision options and managing their multiple potential consequences. One example is the outcome we obtained from a recent stakeholder involvement workshop dealing on optimization in decision-making last September. Other regular activities are also on the agenda, so I will not illustrate them, but just want to cite them. Accelerating the transfer of knowledge and know-how to younger generation of radiological protection experts by training in radiological protection. One example is the International Radiological Protection School. Progressing on interactions and dialogues between academic research communities, policymakers, regulators, as well as the public. This is a direction that has been taken by the high-level group on low-dose research coordination, which is functioning under the auspice of the ICRPPH, and we believe that the link between research and expertise needs to be strengthened so that the most significant research findings can be appropriately translated more rapidly into policy and regulation as well as in plain language. And lastly, an important routine on continuous activities is to share knowledge and best practice among countries and organizations on various issues. And there I can't resist to mention the coming international exercise, INEX 6, which will be for the first time entirely dedicated to post-accident recovery. And that will take place at the early beginning next year. So to conclude, given the rapid development of new nuclear technologies, the expansion of nuclear power in an increasing number of countries, and the accelerating decommissioning in others, coupled with unprecedented situations such as a war in one of Europe's most developed nuclear energy countries, it is crucial and challenging to keep our knowledge and understanding fit for purpose, as well as to improve communication and dialogue among stakeholders. So the strategy is to remain agile and adapt human capital to the societal needs. It's about ensuring that radiological protection community as a whole has a continuous sufficient number of people with the skills needed to manage and use the nuclear technologies safely for the benefits of the society. And with this, I stop. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Jean-Christophe Gaël of IRSN from France. He is currently Deputy Director General of IRSN in charge of the Health Environment Division. He is a coordinator of the Pianoforte European Partnership on Research in Radiation Protection. So please start the presentation.
Thank you very much for this kind introduction. First of all, I would like to thank ICRP for giving me the opportunity to take part in this panel discussion on the fundamental issue, to my mind, and also to give you a short description of the European Pianoforte Partnership. I'm going to focus my talk on research for radiation protection, given that research is very often the best way to becoming an expert in the field of radiation protection. So the subject of this session is strengthening expertise. So when we talk about strengthening expertise, it seems to me that we are talking about two notions. On the one hand, a quantitative notion, and on the other, a qualitative one. In other words, do we have enough experts, and do they have the right skills and competencies to face up the challenges ahead? I mean all the challenges that were mentioned during this week. Taking into account these qualitative and quantitative aspects, what is the situation in Europe? My assessment is that for a number of reasons, Europe has more or less been able to maintain its capacity for research and expertise in the field of radiation protection. There are two reasons for that. First, the fact that several member states have maintained research programs over the years. That, for example, is the case in Germany, in Belgium, in France, and also in other European countries. And second, it's due to the fact that European Commission has consistently financed research programs within the Euratom framework. So, to sum up, even if the situation is fragile, we can consider that Europe has maintained its capacity for expertise in the field of radiation protection, thanks to the maintenance of its research capacity. Now, a few words about the Pianoforte European partnership that I am coordinating. In 2021, the European Commission, within the framework of Euratom, proposed the creation of a co-finance. Co-finance means that both the Commission is paying, but also member states. A co-finance partnership in the field of radiation protection research. By this decision, it's important to my mind, the Commission entrusts a consortium with defining research priorities and organizing calls for projects. There are therefore 3 calls which will take place between 2023 and 2025. The first call has been launched in April 2023, and the results are expected within 10 days. I take the opportunity of this talk to thank the reviewer. I know that there are some reviewers in the room, so thank you for reviewing the project. The particularity of these calls is, for project is double. First, the definition of the research topics is the subject of a consultation process which involves all stakeholders from regulators to members of the public through the scientific community. And the second specificity is that these calls for projects are open to the entire scientific community and not restricted to Pianoforte partners only. That's a specificity in this partnership, because in Europe, very often, partnerships are closed partnerships. By doing this, it makes possible to attract teams and young scientists coming from a field other than the family of radiation protection research. During this week, somebody said it's a niche. Specific funding will be provided for hosting PhD students and postdocs for teams not belonging to the consortium. Furthermore, a significant budget of this project is devoted to the organization of training courses for young researchers and professionals, to financing their mobility, and finally, to actions aimed at facilitating their networking. To summarize, this partnership, which has a total budget of 46 million euros in total, 30 comes from the Commission, is therefore a tool for first, attract young researchers, and second, benefit from skills outside the classical field of radiation protection, such as bioinformatics, data sciences, or artificial intelligence. Considering that today's young researchers are tomorrow's experts in radiation protection, the challenge that awaits us, however, will be to be able to retain the young researchers who have contributed to this partnership. This is a very difficult task in a context of competition between the different sectors of activity in the various European countries, and also in a context where needs are already significant in the medical sector and where they will increase rapidly in the coming years due to new nuclear energy programs which are or will be launched. Now, regarding the second question about raising public awareness, I'm going to change my hat and take on that of someone who works in a public body in charge of the assessment of radiological and nuclear risk, IRSN. This question, to me, is central and refers to the notion of radiation protection culture. How can we interest the public in protection from ionizing radiation? The difficulties lies in the fact that public interest usually appears during crisis episodes, whether a radiological incident affecting humans or the environment, and fortunately, exceptionally, following a nuclear accident. The difficulty is to interest the public in normal situations, so under certain circumstances, the public already has a good understanding of the concepts linked to radioactivity and how to protect themselves if necessary. The experience that we have at IRSN is that we must undertake long-term actions that are not limited to unilateral communication. The idea is to practically involve the public in concrete actions. From this point of view, and this is just an example, technological progress now makes it possible to have reliable and financially accessible means of measurement. The fact of involving citizens in measurements campaigns, whether, for example, measurements of radon in homes or even measurements in the environment, make it possible to interest and, above all, to involve the public and to provide keys to act in crisis situations. In the end, let us admit that much remains to be done in this area. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Dr. Emily van de Winter. She is the head of the Radiation and Health Unit at the World Health Organization. She is responsible for the WHO, radon, and non-ionizing radiation activities. Dr. de Winter, floor is yours.
Thank you. So I will just try to briefly give a perspective from the World Health Organization. And first of all, I just wanted to say that I think the idea of the Vancouver Call for Action is a very good one, and we totally endorse it. It's very useful to focus the attention and the efforts, and we've seen that with the Bonn Call for Action that was developed over 10 years ago with IAEA, and which still today is very useful to many stakeholders. I took the liberty to take this Vancouver Call for Action and move the bullet points around into 3 topics, which are research, education, and communication. And this is how I will discuss our position. So first of all, in terms of research, I was just thinking, what can WHO offer? And what you're talking about are governments and funding agencies strengthening resources for RP research. From a WHO perspective, well, we don't fund research, we don't perform research, at least not in this area. But what we do is we prioritize research, and this is actually one of our core functions, to shape the research agenda and to stimulate the generation, translation, and dissemination of knowledge in the area of public health. So we also actually review research with a view of providing recommendations. But quite recently, WHO has published a guide to develop research agendas and to make sure that the priorities are developed in and provided in a transparent manner and includes key principles such as fairness and equity, and of course open access to research and the use of shared data, if at all possible. So this is something that for researchers here or funding agencies, I suggest you look at. The thing is also that WHO has a strong voice and can reach many stakeholders, at least in the health community, including funding agencies and researchers. And over the years and on many topics, we have developed research agendas, not yet on ionizing radiation, but definitely on non-ionizing radiation. In terms of education, what can WHO offer? You mentioned fostering general awareness of radiation and radiological protection through education and training of information multipliers. And I think this is a very good point. WHO has a number of platforms for education and training. The first one is called Open WHO. It's an online platform that addresses a wide range of public health topics. It's free, it's open access, and it's really targeting frontline responders of emergencies, also health workers and even policymakers. We also have another platform, if you wish, which was set up by WHO and a number of publishers to enable low and middle income countries to gain access to a large collection of biomedical journals and also health literature and therefore education. It has over 21,000 journals in HINARI, and I'm very happy to say that ICRP for many years has been contributing their publications through HINARI to all these low and middle income countries. Also there is the WHO Academy, which you may not have heard about because it's not yet fully functional. It will be, the building is being finalized in Lyon in France, and President Macron and our Director General just started it a couple years ago. But this idea here is to offer both online and in-person courses. And these are different ways where WHO can help educate the health workforce on radiation protection, and those people can then serve as multipliers. But I think that there's other multipliers that we don't necessarily think about, and I would like to mention also patients, because patients and patient advocates can definitely help as multipliers to educate their families and communities. Just a few weeks ago, ICRP was part of a webinar on this topic. And the idea here is that patients should co-develop policies and guidelines. Finally, in terms of communication, we talk about plain language. You may be aware of some documents that we have developed for pediatricians, for example, over the years. But I wanted to show also some examples, not from WHO, but from other colleagues from around the world, including this set of stamps that was just released months ago in Greece. and it's from the Greek Atomic Energy Agency, and it has graphs about, or stamps about radiation protection in medicine, radon, and so on, and they're really cute, and I have a copy if you want to see one. Plain language. I was going to wear these t-shirts, but since I didn't see anybody else wearing t-shirts, I decided I'll just show the picture. That's really plain language. Fixing radon is easy, lung cancer is not. So we very much are happy with such language, very simple and to the point. And in terms of communication, in radiation, we have the interesting situation that we have different types of communication possibilities. From a public health perspective, non-ionizing radiation spanning from UV, which, as you all know, has quite a burden of skin cancer and radon lung cancers, going down to medical applications and EMF. But when we think about public concern, we see the complete total image. And so there we have to use different strategies in terms of communication on these topics. And finally, in this Vancouver Call for Action, we mentioned the Sustainable Development Goals. These are, of course, of very great importance to all the UN agencies. And for us, obviously, the number 3 is an important one, or the most important one. And finally, I just wanted to show that this strategic objective number 3 is actually very much related to all the other 16 SDGs. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your comprehensive and very informative presentation. The next speaker is Dr. Carol Robinson. Dr. Robinson has been working in the area of radiological protection for over 30 years. She is originally from the UK and previously worked for the IAEA. She is now the Director for International Cooperation at the Norwegian Radiation and Nuclear Safety Authority and takes part in the HERCA board on behalf of Norway. So, Dr. Robinson, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. And good afternoon, and thank you to ICRP for inviting HERCA to give a presentation in this session. So I will say a few words about practical aspects of strengthening expertise from a HERCA perspective. A short introduction. You've already seen a very similar slide earlier this week, so I won't go into details. But the main thing to say here is that HERCA is comprised of the heads of European radiological protection authorities in 32 countries. And of course, those countries will have their own views and strategies and policies on strengthening expertise. And what I'm going to say is what HERCA provides over and above that. In short, the benefits of talking to and working with your neighbours. So to start with, HERCA's ambition has been demonstrated to be contributing to a high level of radiological protection throughout Europe by building and maintaining a network of the chief radiation protection authorities. And I think two of these bullets are particularly relevant to strengthening expertise. The second one, which is promoting the exchange of ideas and experiences, avoiding unnecessary duplication of work, and learning from one another's best practices. And the final one, which is discussing and, where appropriate, expressing its consensus opinion on significant regulatory issues. So this demonstrates two features. One is learning from one another and enhancing the expertise of the HERCA members. And the other is developing a consensus view, which can add to, hopefully, the achieving strengthening expertise beyond in the wider community. So HERCA recently updated its strategy And there are three main components of this: cooperation, efficiency, and stakeholders. The blue arrows here demonstrate areas that are relevant to strengthening expertise. So you can see that it's quite an important factor in here. And I'd like to draw attention to just a couple of these. One is the better, in fact, 1 and 6 are very closely related, which is the better use of the board's experience and promoting internal mechanisms for enhancing exchange. And the other is being a strategic partner for ICRP, IAEA, and EC. And I should say that HERCA is one of the ICRP's SLO organizations. And this brings me to the right-hand side of this presentation, of this slide rather. As regulatory bodies, HERCA and the HERCA members are closely connected to and concerned with the practical application of international recommendations, standards and guidance, and aims to identify common issues and propose practical solutions. Of course, many topics are covered by the Euratom Treaty and addressed in the BSS, and many of the countries are obviously particularly concerned with this, being members of the EU. The programme of work that's identified for HERCA is based on identifying areas of common interest and identifying priority areas on significant regulatory issues. So obviously the board of the heads of the regulatory bodies aren't the ones that do the meat of the work. The meat of the work for HERCA is done by the working groups. And we have a number of these in different topical areas. And although one's called education and training, all of them are related to strengthening expertise. The education and training is largely dealing with the requirements for radiation protection advisors. As I say, all of them are related to strengthening expertise and work in different ways to collect information on regulatory issues to help address training issues. There are different forms of workshops that are undertaken. There are different joint inspection arrangements, etc. So there are different ways that are addressed to enhance the expertise within the HERCA membership. So just as an example, some recent HERCA activities. There was an inspection workshop on how to inspect optimization and radiation safety and radiotherapy, which was held in Finland in June this year. There are plans to hold a workshop on the implementation or practical implementation of basic safety standards, and work is in progress to identify among the HERCA members what are some of the key issues related to implementing the basic safety standards within the regulatory frameworks. In terms of stakeholders, there were a dedicated paper was prepared by HERCA to share its views on the ICRP update of its recommendations, and that was presented at the symposium last year. And recently, HERCA has been working with WENRA to review its the HERCA-WENRA approach on emergency preparedness and response, with a focus on the war in Ukraine. There is also a network on occupational dose collection, which will publish its information in due course. And also to demonstrate the sort of outputs from HERCA, there are a number of position papers, guidance, information papers. This information is readily available on its website, so enhancing the exposure and the expertise beyond the membership of HERCA. So as an example, position paper on radon therapy, what am I talking about? Proton therapy in 2021, Norm guidance in 2022 included a review of the way in which HERCA members regulate norm industries, and there are a number of information papers. So I don't have an overview slide, but I would say, as I said at the beginning, I think HERCA demonstrates that value in talking to neighbours and working together, that we are continuing to work as an SLO is important to us, and yeah, I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Dr. Bernard Le Guen. Dr. Bernard Le Guen is the current IRPA ERPA president and ERPA representative in the ICRP Committee 4. He had been trained as a medical doctor and is a fellow expert for radiation protection and health at international level, and also collaborates with the IAEA and OECD and CRPPH. Bernard, floor is yours.
Thank you so much to participate to this interesting roundtable. As you know, ERPA is a ICRP SLO. ERPA is the voice of professionals. So I was able to discuss with you about the importance of education and training and different ERPA initiatives on this topic, and how for ERPA this is important to endorse the Vancouver Call for Action. But I decided to take this question, strengthening expertise and raising public awareness, with a recent joint publication with WHO, IOMP, and IEA and ERPA, because with the example on healthcare and lesson learned, why this is a good practical example of expertise and public awareness relation. Because managing population exposure from medical technologies is more than a purely scientific and technical matter. You saw that particularly with the important question raised by Madame Riani and the burden of the increase with the increase of number of medical exams. And there is, on the other hand, a general recognition of the importance of considering societal values as they evolve. Patients' rights also carry with them responsibilities in how a patient and their family members should act in relation with the healthcare facility. So clearly, involving patients, families, and the public in the process of decision-making is fundamental, and to have the opportunity to discuss about not only benefit but also risk, and why not cost. But what we learn also about this brainstorming around relation between expertise and patients. As Jacques mentioned for the Fukushima dialogue on the first day, an expert must listen and adapt his speech to the public, and in this case to the patient. Of course, patients have repeatedly reported a desire to know both dose and risk when asked. Informed consent rests on transparency about the benefit and risk of diagnostic and treatment intervention. But we must pay attention about the degree of disclosure of the patient diagnosis and prognosis, because this may differ from one patient to another. In the disclosure of radiation risk and complication, it is important to consider the cognitive and emotional burden that inappropriate or excessive detail may have on. My second message is about advantages about this relation between expert and public and citizen patient. For the patient, first advantage, there is an opportunity to engage such representation not only in a broad patient safety issues, but also in relation to specific aspects of radiation safety culture. And also because among all professionals, we have not only experts in radiation protection or in radiation safety. So among all professionals involved, this dialogue has also had a positive impact on the safety communication and dialogue between the members of the team involved in the patient care journey. So now it's very important to note this two-way communication, bottom-up and top-down, between expert and, in this case, patient. And particularly common benefit. From professional, so the expert, to patients, those who will be on the receiving end of both the benefit and the risk, and this can allows organization. Second, from patient to professionals, and I'm thinking, of course, about all professional stakeholders can learn from patient experience, and this can influence also their own management at the organizational level through patient advocacy groups, and the importance to have the opportunity to include patient representative on appropriate committees. And when I explained just previously, also from professional expert to other professionals in order to pay attention about their awareness about radiation benefits and risk. And this can help a lot also in order to increase the level of culture. Well, because I have only 5 minutes, in conclusion, engagement and empowerment of patient risk awareness contributes to quality and safety of care. This facilitates communication between health professionals and patients in a respectful environment and improves dialogue with patients and family. And well, you have well understood all attributes of a positive safety culture. So my last sentence. Now, if we have an opportunity to take a dictionary and look the right definition of culture in general. Culture is the ideas, beliefs, and customs that are shared and accepted by people in a society and transmitted and reinforced by members of the group. I think it's not so far from the first sentence with our question, strengthening expertise and raising public awareness. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for your presentation, and also thank you for saving some time for discussion. Our next speaker is Dr. Jing Chen. Dr. Chen is the current chair of UNSCARE. Dr. Chen, floor is yours.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, ICRP, for involving UNSCARE on this panel discussion. The United Nations Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation, in short, UNSCARE, was established in 1955 by the United Nations General Assembly resolution, with the mandate to evaluate the latest scientific data on the levels, effects, and the risks of exposure to ionizing radiation on human and the environment. In 2019, at its 66th session, the committee adopted a public information and outreach strategy for the period 2020 to 2024 to guide the work of the committee and its secretariat in outreach and communication activity with different stakeholders. The primary aim of the outreach strategy and the associated activity was to deepen understanding about the work of the committee and its general findings on radiation sources, levels, and effects, particularly among decision makers and their advisors, educators and students, the public, and the media. A major element of the UNSCARE public information and outreach strategy is the development of appropriate outreach and promotional products. Based on UNSCARE reports, the United Nations Environment Program, the UNEP booklet, Radiation Effects and Sources, was developed, first published in 1985 and updated in 1991 and 2016 to expand the public knowledge about levels of exposure to ionizing radiation and the possible associated effects. The booklet was provided information on basic science related to radiation, including the origin of radiation, its quantity and units. Most importantly, the booklet has provided information on radiation effects on humans and the impacts on the environment. The booklet is available for free download in 15 languages for communicating radiation science to the public in easy, understandable way. At its 70th session this year, the committee re-emphasized the importance of broad dissemination and the future updates of the booklet based on UNSCAR's new report and encouraged the translation into other languages. At its 69th session in 2022, the committee proposed a new approach for outreach activities, including additional social media content to promote awareness of radiation effects. In recent years, the outreach activities have targeted the scientific and diplomat communities, the public, and the media, with launch of the new website, the social media platform. And the LinkedIn and Twitter account was successfully activated, and initial feedback was received during the UNSCAR outreach events in Japan in July 2022. The video, well translated into Japanese, reached about 200,000 threads. This experience illustrated the value and impact of using social media for promotion and dissemination of community's work, and reaching out to wider audience when the messages are translated into local languages. Providing regular update on UNSCAR's events has become a routine practice. A new feature openly available is access to the videos and the proceedings of UNSCAR's online webinars. Last year, the Secretariat organized 3 online webinars where experts presented the key findings of UNSCAR's 2020-2021 reports, Annex A, C, and D. As April this year, the recording of these webinars have had more than 3,000 views. In addition, UNSCAR reports and its program of work were presented and disseminated at various national, regional, and international events, such as at this symposium. The UNSCAR public website remained quite popular with over 400,000 views for the period from the 10th May 2020, the date the new website opened, to the 30th September this year. The UNSCAR public website was further enhanced to provide easy access to committee's reports and the relevant General Assembly resolutions in the 6 official languages of the United Nations. All UNSCAR publications were available on UNSCAR website for free downloading. From May last year to September this year, UNSCAR publications were downloaded about 300,000 times. The committee has recognized the importance of sharing knowledge and experiences with young professionals and the urgency to foster the development of the next generation of radiation scientists. In this regard, at the last General Assembly in New York, the committee invited the member states to consider and support the launch of an on-scale initiative for building the next generation of radiation scientists starting in 2024. The proposal could be implemented through mentorship, participation as contributing or supporting experts in ongoing or new scientific evaluations and or training events. The committee and its secretariat continue engaging and working with young professionals as in-kind experts and students as interns who have completed the final academic year of a university degree at bachelor level or equivalent. I'm very happy to see that so many young professionals attended this symposium and actively participate in scientific discussion. While we celebrate our great achievement in radiation science, we're also able to see the bright future in the field with so many bright young professionals joining radiation science. Radiation science will continue to contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, in particular those related to good health and well-being, health, oceans and sea, and conserving life on land. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. The next speaker is Dr. Miroslav Pinak. He is currently the head of the Radiation Safety and Monitoring section at the IAEA. He is responsible for managing the work of the section, which includes preparation of standards on radiation safety. Dr. Pinak, floor is yours.
So, Mr. and Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. I try to be quick. So the title of this session, as well as my talk, is Capacity and Expertise Building in Radiation Protection and Raising Public, and I would like to add, and also professional awareness, which is the core of the IA mission, in particular is through preparing of the standards, which I would like to say on these slides. I'm really not reading it through, but basically all the standards, there is a huge effort to be prepared on the high level of consensus. And speaking from my own professional experience through many years, consensus is the key word in order to prepare document, because it is the way how to ensure its acceptability. If we, as a relatively small society of radiation protection or radiation safety professionals, do not say the same, we cannot expect that those people who are not that high-level professional will accept what we are saying. And it is not an easy way to reach the consensus, even without us. But through this, what you see on the screens, so through these processes and instruments which are in place, we are trying to build the standards which achieve the high level of consensus. Another role of the IAEA is to provide for application. These are words, and the words must be filled by the action. And the actions are listed here as, for example, training courses, e-learning webinars. These two have been really significantly proliferated due to pandemic travel restrictions because there was no other way. Technical meetings, review missions, workshop and conferences, promotional publication, and web-based informations. This is core of our work, what we are trying to raise the public and as well as professional awareness of the work which is being done. And behind it is this high level of the consensual materials which we are trying to promote. Just have a few examples. So there have been several already mentioned call for actions and so on, like the Vancouver and others. So there was also, for example, 1 year ago, occupational radiation protection call for action, which calls for unified approach in many fields which are not a priori classified as radiation protection areas of work, but they need to be actually brought into the recognition of the regulatory authorities. For example, non-uranium mining, radon-prone areas, and many, many other areas where probably that kind of high-level recognition of radiation safety are not there. And in many countries in the world, they would deserve to be there. Another bullet point which is here is related to the medical radiation protection of patients. So Emily has kindly already mentioned both Gone for Action, our cooperation with them, so I don't need to spend the time, but I can tell this is a huge area where we are trying to work together. And also we are working together with the work of Mr. Rehani, who actually brought this to the attention. What is the things related to the proliferation of certain diagnostic practices, and whether we are correctly looking on that, not only from the point of view of benefit of the medical outcome, but also from the point of view of radiation safety. The last bullet point is the radiation protection of patients webpage, which is a significant role. We are IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, but I am proud to say this homepage of RPOP, Radiation Protection of Patients, website is the most attended or visited web page of the agency because it shows the interest, where the interest of radiation safety currently is located. And we are happy that it is there, and we are committed to continue that. In addition to that, VIA is providing radiation safety advisory services, for example, review services in countries which are not that highly developed, for example, our host country here in Japan and so on. We are working with nuances on different fields, but there are certain fundamental issues which require stability in order to be able to build the system how it is done. And I'm proud to say that I just 1 week ago returned from one country when I saw the encouragement, the willingness to reach the level of, for example, those countries that are sitting here in this room. That is really amazing, and I is proud to help them because once they are there, they are really in harmony with others because they are following our approach, which is sort of consensually agreed approach. That we provide the training is also mentioned too, and we are really trying to bring professionals in the field to that level of recognition of the knowledge which is needed. And also we are providing higher education and training, so I am happy to say that we are strongly supporting Vancouver Call for Action, which is actually having this as one agenda. In summary, these are the goals which we are trying to do. Our effort in this field, raising awareness and building capacity and recognizing the importance of radiation safety, is strengthen people's knowledge and skills to engage with radiation safety and radiation protection, is not only people who are actually not professionals like the members of the public. These are also of the professionals who needs to be brought up to date of the knowledge of the science. Raising public awareness, certainly, no questions with that. We are trying to extend it. Engagement with stakeholders through sort of providing tutorial how we actually build the system of the radiation safety. Communicate and engage. We need to have, I myself, I am not professional in the communication and so on. I am poor radiation safety specialist. But in the sense, in order to be able to sell what we know, we need to have this side of guidance from professionals, and IAEA is engaged to develop such guidance. We are providing national and regional workshop and stakeholder engagement, and we also involve stakeholders through the integrating in review missions. It's not only to try to teach them how to actually understand better what we are trying to communicate, but also to be part of this communication effort. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. And also thank you for all 9 speakers. Well, I think we have already, almost consumed, the given time for this session. But however, I think we should have now time for the question and answers. So yes, please come forward to the microphone, and perhaps, we can take a few questions only. So I hope that the question also should be.
Yes.
Yes, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. My name is Francisco Castellón from CSN in Spain. I just wanted to make a quick comment about a statement by Jean-Christophe Grail about the utility of involving citizens on measurement of radioactivity. I think that the communication technologies, the advance in detectors allows to do that, and there is some experience in your institute. You have an interesting experience on that. And I think that this tool can be very useful for awareness of population in general, for increase the dialogue with experts, and even for promote the self-radioactive protection of the population. But for me, it's very important that these kind of projects are promoted by official organisms in order to guarantee two important things: the quality of measurement and the quality of interpretation of measurement. So I think that there are several projects like this all over the world, and I would put attention in this kind of ideas. In Spain, we are trying to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Well, maybe, yes, please.
No, we have no specific comments. I agree with what you said, and we are sharing the experience between CSN and IRSN, so we are in close contact.
Okay, then maybe, yes, you are.
Hi, Derek Yokish from Francis Marion University. A call to action implies that change is required. I'm curious how many of the organizations represented are initiating new funded programs with the goal of increasing radiation protection professionals.
Well, any answer from the speakers? Yes, or Mr. Pinnock first, then Bernard.
Thank you very much for the questions. I can answer very quickly. Yes, agencies strongly engage in providing a lot of, in the preparation of a lot of tutorials, training courses, and even advocating with the ministries of education concerning the bringing certain, let's say, that courses into the curricula in order to increase this kind of knowledge for those people who would need them in applying their profession.
Yes.
I would like to thank for the question, because as well explained by Werner, one of the crucial questions for expertise is to have enough experts and how to attract the young generation for radiation protection. And for example, for IRPA, we have a young generation network. We decided to launch a TG on mentoring and in order to increase the competencies, because in one hand, we need more people, and the other hand, we need to be sure that there are good competencies, not only education, but skills and competencies. And well, it's fundamental that we think about that. It's also the case in US, and it's probably one of the most crucial questions for the future.
And Jacqueline from NEA.
Yes, thank you. I would like to say first that this is not just about one organization doing something, but or just one country, but really all of us. And just to mention also that strengthening expertise means also strengthening the link between research, expertise, and education and training. Expertise doesn't work in isolation. It's not possible. It is fed by both education and training and research. And regarding what NEA is doing, I think the IRPS, so the International Radiological Protection School, is an event which is organized on a yearly basis. In its summer, hosted by Stockholm University and sponsoring by the SSM, so the Nuclear Safety Authority in Sweden. Since 2 years, we have received more than 120 applications, of which we are selecting 50 participants each year. So, and I'm really pleased to see just in front of me 2 alumni of IRPS 2023 now discussing all together. Before this, they didn't know each other, and I'm sure that this is the beginning of the network, and it's really valuable for the entire community, and in this align very well with strengthening expertise. Also,
thank you. Now is the time for you.
Thank you. Marcel Lips from Switzerland. I work for the Gösgen Nuclear Power Plant, and I'm chairing the WNA's Radiological Protection Working Group. I have just a comment. We heard from Jean-Christophe that there is enough scientific expertise in Europe available. This is not the case in practice. So utilities are struggling to find enough practitioners for their outages, people who protect their colleagues. And this is not only a European issue, this is also an issue in other parts of the world. So my message here is, when we discuss about strengthening expertise, it's not only education and science, it's also the practitioners that must be included in this program. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Maybe Francois, you
François Bochu from Lausanne University Hospital in Switzerland. I have a question for Madan about the high doses delivered to patients. From your point of view, what is the problem? Is this the problem of justification or bad optimization, bad communication, bad ethics, or bad something? Or, well, is it bad at all?
In short, all. See, on one end, we have a hospital where best form of justification in the world is being used and best form of optimization available in the world is being used. And still, we had rather the largest number of patients with 100 millisievert plus. On the other hand, we have hospitals where we do not know if they have the justification in place, if they have the optimization in place, so we cannot say anything. So, but I think the message I would like to emphasize against your question is that ICRP thinks, I also all these years was thinking that justification is not being implemented and that is where the problem is. But now I have enough experience to make this statement that ICRP has to find solution to a situation where the best form of justification and best form of optimization is in place, but then there are patients with mega doses also. So that is something for ICRP to keep in mind for future. I think I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you for your participation.
So throughout this session, we were reminded of the importance of increasing expertise and raising public awareness. In other words, we ourselves might have to make efforts to improve training, education, research, and so on in order to maintain and improve the capacity of society to manage radiation risks. So following the symposium in Vancouver last year, this session should provide a driving force for various organizations to work individually and collaboratively to address this issue. So thank you very much for valuable presentation, discussion, and participation.